Hi YouTube, this is Get Pugged here, and I have my friend Zach here, and he's going to be doing a deck profile. So what are you going to be profiling for today, Zach?
I'm going to be doing Gusto Demise.
Alright then, that's pretty interesting. So go ahead, the show's yours.
Alright, so this is a build that a lot of people have started doing because they realize that Gustos are really really outdated, quite old. So yeah, let's just get into it. Gustos, as you guys may or may not know, it's a wind deck that bases around floaters. Are these all being seen right now?
Yep.
Yep. So basically, these are the main cards you want. You play the maximum number of Guldos and Pilicas because the entire deck is based around these. You want to get these onto the field as quickly as possible. She special summons any Wind Tuners from your graveyard, and this goes into your win condition, which is a synchro monster known as what's her name right now? Sfreeze. So that's your win condition right there. So you want to play as many of these as possible. There's not much else to say about it. I don't think there's any profile that plays less. So there's that. For the further floaters, we have 3 Eagle and 3 Kamui. These are the floaters, and Eagle, basically when he's flipped, he special summons a tuner from your deck. So pretty self-explanatory. Some people run Kamui at 2, but I think he's really good. Then the last is 1 Winda. She needs to be attacked by an opponent's monster. So she's, unlike these, which you can crash into the opponent, you can't do that with her, so that's why I only run her at 1. Next up, we have 2 Cam. These are the last of the Gusto monsters. She allows you to recycle cards from your graveyard, Gusto cards I should say, by returning 2 from the graveyard back into the deck, and then you draw. I think 2 is the correct number because any more than that, it's really cloggy. When I had her at 1, I never really saw her, so this deck also is, this build focuses on recurring things from the graveyard. We had a couple test games earlier, and even though the opponent was playing barrier statues, and that's a really hard matchup for a lot of decks, and including this one, my deck was, for like the last 10 minutes of the duel, was constantly at about like 15 cards, and it just kept reoccurring, so that's what the deck does. And then the last card is 1 Ghost Ogre, because she can be special summoned by E-Telly if you need to do that. If going to Pilica doesn't help you at that certain situation. So I think that's 16 monsters. Next up, we're going into our spells. So triple card Demise. It's Demise Cosmos, not Cosmos. Gustos. So 3 Demise and 3 Duality. This is your draw power plus the Upstart Goblin and the 1 Day of Peace. It's literally as much draw power as I could go. I do not have desires, but even if I did, you can run it in this deck, but a lot of this deck focuses on recursion, so if you get rid of the cards that recur, it's not exactly the best thing, but again, it's up to you.
You don't want to lose your combo pieces for that, because you want to recycle them back in the deck over and over again.
Yep. The deck focuses on floaters, so if you can't float,
then
just happen, then you literally...
Your deck doesn't do anything.
You can't do anything. Your OTK relies on you floating, so that's where it comes from. 2 creature swap. This is like what Gustos are known for. This is like non-targeting removal. If your opponent has like a Crystal Wing or something, your opponent can't because it doesn't target. Your opponent chooses something to give to you. So if they only have 1 monster, it's super effective. You give them your crappy Gusto monster, and then when your Gusto monster dies, you get the float.
So you get +1 off it basically.
Yeah, it's really good, but playing at 3 in this build especially is not very good because the low monster count, because I've cut out quite a few monsters from
you get clogged at 3.
Yep. Next up, 2 MSTs and 1 Contact with Gusto. Quill Pin is another card that some people play, and it can be run, but in this build personally, I'm not running it. Basically, I grouped these together because Contact is basically a 3rd MST. You only want to run it at 1. It sends 2 Gustos from your graveyard back into your deck to destroy something, so it can destroy monsters as well, but it's basically a 3rd MST. But it's a bit too situational to run more than that. And then for the last 1-of spells, we have E-Telly, because it's at 1. Rest in peace. Raigeki, because Raigeki, and then Instant Fusion. You can actually run a couple other Instant Fusion targets and bump it up to 3, which I might do, just because Norden... You want to see Norden as quickly as possible, because in this deck, where all your things go to the graveyard, you can OTK really quickly, so that's something that I might actually change.
And half your targets in the grave are probably the tuners as well, so you can just synchro or
Very
flip
easily.
that.
Yeah,
Go for
it's super easy. Next up are the trap cards. Triple Fiendish. In the meta, a lot of things can be targeted again, which is helpful. These cards fell out of the meta just because things couldn't be targeted. It just wasn't as good as it used to be. But in a more stun heavy deck like this, it's good. I'm going to probably, if I rework this deck a bit, I'm going to bump up the traps quite a bit because there's only a few more after this. For the demises, obviously, we want to have less monsters and less spells. So that's something to take into account. If I had strikes, I'd be running them, but strikes are strikes. These are our Gusto traps. Blessings, I've seen some people, when they played Demise Gustos, they would bump this up to 3 because it recurs things from your graveyard. But it can definitely be a dead card because you need 3 targets in your graveyard, which doesn't always happen. So I think that 2 is fine. And then Whirlwind is basically if you have nothing on the field, you can special summon something from your deck by returning something from your graveyard. So you only want to run it at 1. That's a comeback play. And then next up for our last 2 traps, we have a Bottomless and we have a Solemn. Not much to say about that. That's all it is.
You want to go on directly there? So what you got there for that?
Yeah, Norden. That's all there is to say about him.
We don't know what, we know what he does.
I'm kind of surprised he didn't get banned. Okay, this is the card that wins you the game. You basically just care about these in Norden, and that's it. There's a couple other cards that can come in clutch, but basically she's your OTK because your opponent takes all the damage you would. And most players only run her at 2, but I like her at 3 because I've faced opponents who have solemned 2 of them, but they just don't have enough resources for all 3.
Mm-hmm.
You can recur some of them, but you can't sometimes you just this deck can really summon her really easily, but sometimes it can't bring it back as easily. Yeah. So I like to run 3, and honestly, there's not very much in this extra deck you really care about.
If 3 of them got negated per se, would you be able to still win the duel if 3 of those got negated?
There's a lot of stun value in this deck, which again I'm going to probably bump up if I remake the deck at some point. Probably do a profile for that. But if I do, I'll be adding more traps to it, possibly lowering the monster and spell count again because I feel like it's a little high right now, so that we can stall out the game just long enough to bring those cards back to our extra deck.
Okay.
Well, isn't there something like Cam that can bring it back too? Or
Cam unfortunately cannot because in the way that she's written, you can shuffle 2 Gusto monsters from your graveyard into the main deck.
Okay,
so you can't actually you can't do that. Contact with Gusto, the spell card, can do that. So can Blessings for Gusto, like their spell and trap cards can, but
but not the monster.
No.
Yeah,
Okay.
Cam is unable to. So yeah, that's just for future reference. Just a few synchros here, level 8 synchros. Scarlight, Stardust, Spark Dragon, and Crimson Blader. I think that this is one of the best level 8s in the game. He's really good. Crimson Blader can be really good, and so can Stardust, Spark Dragon. There's not really much else to say about a lot of these synchros.
Crimson shutting down noise. That's pretty.
Yeah.
That's pretty big.
Against Noids, it's really effective. 2 classic level 7 synchros. This deck can make level 7s and level 8s really easily. It can also make level 4s really easily. So Herald of Arclight can be thrown into this. Old Entity Hastor, even though he's not the best, things like that he can be thrown in here. So.
And reason why you play Ancient Fairy Dragon just because of the big beefy wall, or just
Ancient Fairy. There was the field spell thing can come in clutch against Cosmos, for example. For obviously when you pop Cosmo Town, they can search things.
Yes.
But there's that. It also can help just by special summoning a floater from your hand because their effect allows you to special summon a level 4 or lower.
Okay.
So you just get to put up another wall on top of the 3,000, and then Black Rose is. Black Rose. So
nukes.
Not much to say about that. Final 2 synchro monsters are the other 2 Gustos. We got Goldos and we got Eagles. Eagles, I believe, pops it pops a face down card, and then this pops a spell or trap card. They're quite easy to get into. Not much to say. You wouldn't want to run more, and there's a level 4 synchro Gusto that isn't very good, so I don't really run her, but not. And then all the XCs, you never really go into these, but they're just here in case. Levier and Dante are much easier to go into because there's a lot of level 3s in this deck. You're usually going to have 2 level 3s, but in that case you're going to go into Sprees, so they're just kind of here. This is here in case your things get banished somehow. You don't mind milling in this deck, so Dante's there. If you somehow have 2 cams on the field, Chidori's good, and then Castel for the Northern plays. So that's it for the extra deck.
You want to go off your side deck there?
The hand traps, we have the 1 Maxi and the 2 Ghost Ogres. I don't think there's much to say about that. Good. Maxi shouldn't be up. I'm salt. Yeah, I just think those hit quite a few decks, and will continue to hit a lot of decks in the future, so that's why they're there. Next up, I have the Kaiju Engine. This has dual purpose in this deck because if you give your opponent like a big monster such as this Thunder King, then you can run into it with your floaters and then just continue to OTK them from there.
Sabri's correct?
Yes, Reese. So that was what I was running when I didn't have the Demise in the deck, because I'm already thinking about cutting out cards, so I wouldn't want to add more monsters to it to clog it further. But if I'm going to side these in, there's definitely quite a few cards that you can take out for it. So that's what this is here for. And then these search it and obviously blow up the board if you need to. And then Gameciel is Gameciel. Like,
He's life.
he is life. The last spell is the 3rd MST, because Twin Twisters you don't want to run in this deck. You don't really want to discard anything. If you have Cosmic Cyclones, I guess you could run that, depending. But at least at the locals where I go to, nothing really there that we need to hit. Next up for a few traps in the side deck, we have 2 Chaos Trap Holes. Yeah, if the opponent has a mostly light or dark deck, which is
Pretty relevant.
yeah, it's pretty relevant. A lot of decks do it. Like right now with Zodiacs, it's not as relevant, but still hits a lot of decks.
Infernoids.
Infernoids, yeah.
I know they're fire. They're fire. Never mind.
Are they?
Yeah, they're fire. Never mind.
Okay.
The ABC, you never know.
ABCs or
Burning
Burning
Abyss.
Abyss or some of those sort does hit them.
It was
Minerva.
Minerva focus for that card.
Minerva.
Yeah.
And then final cards are Trivial Mistake. This deck does search with the Duality, which I didn't actually initially notice, but yes, it does. So if you're going to side these in, you can switch them with the Duality or other things, or you could just like keep it face down, activate the Duality, and then go off from there. That's the only card in the deck that searches. The rest of them are just draws normally, and pretty much every other deck I should say in the game searches. So if you can shut it off, like that's pretty huge. So, yeah.
So, anything in the deck you want to change before?
I
I know you're talking about that a little bit, but what would you personally change in the deck?
Honestly, a lot of the card draw I would keep for sure the same because this is a low tier deck, obviously.
Yeah.
So you'd want to keep that.
Consistency, you want your draw there.
Yeah. I might want to cut down a couple. I might want to take out the Ghost Ogre. Might want to take out one of the cams because she is useful, but she can't bring back your synchros, which is pretty annoying. Yeah, I want to up the trap count a little bit. I'm not really sure what I take out yet, but still.
Alright, well, thanks, Zach, for the deck profile. That's very interesting. We don't see too many Gusto players out there.
Nope.
So, thanks a lot, and this is Get Pug Sign.